So quick history. ITFM, early on, basic cost alignment of infrastructure. You had mix on the mainframe. You had TEM stuff going on within the network. You know, there wasn't a lot of complexity in IT, and it didn't really, it wasn't hard to do this, and it was done pretty well. And in fact, on the mainframe, there was very good data coming out of the mainframe and good understanding of cost and cost drivers. In organizations, you had very simple cost models. They used their own tools. So 2003 to 2016, it started to get more complicated. Virtualization came along. Distributed computing started to take significant hold. Cloud as an option began to emerge. And so this whole notion, IT became very complex very quickly in a very short period of time. And all of a sudden, it wasn't so easy anymore to keep that cost structure aligned, and the complexity of layers, this notion of a stratified architecture started to emerge. And so there's a level of complexity that emerged out of it. And now all of a sudden we see that IT financial management isn't really possible anymore on Excel and Access databases. And you start to see the emergence of software companies whose primary goal was to enable that complexity in a system in a way that you could actually manage it more effectively. And then what we see today is a lot of organizations have adopted this notion of a cost model with reporting and analytics inside of a system, but now they come out with that information and nobody uses it. They don't know how to present it. They don't know what to do with it. They're getting the so what answer from the business. And that's where you see coming out today this notion of maybe what we need to do is have this as a managed service. Maybe that what we really need is the right set of reports with the right set of analytics put on by folks who know this stuff really well in a way that's effective and consistent. So Gartner does their hype curve. And so the hype curve, we kind of took that hype curve that they're on right now, and Gartner's kind of predicting right now that the IT financial management software practice is actually peaked and is heading downward. You can debate sort of where you think that is relative, and I'm sure the software companies push back and say, no, we're not headed downward yet. But what you notice in the environment is enough companies have adopted software and adopted the methodologies of that software and are not getting results, which is the traditional sort of explanation of I've crested in the hype curve. My suspended disbelief that this will solve all the problems in the world have come crashing down, and all of a sudden I recognize it's not that simple. It's more complicated. And so what we've seen happen sort of around the process across the hype curve was, really prior to 2006, there wasn't enough momentum in the marketplace that there was a need for folks to have a software product that did this. Those software products came on. The problem was there was not enough expertise in the early adopters about how to use that software and to use it effectively. And once they got it in and they got the expertise on how to use the software and they got it plugged in, now they couldn't get the value out of it, which is the conversations we have every day. I've got the software. What do I do with this thing? They have spent so much money, there's a bit of burnout. And so now when we get to go in and talk to organizations, they say, there's no funding left. My boss is not willing to write another $4 million check on a 3-year bet that this might solve the problem, which is the true definition of the hype curve, right? It's at this point in time, it's like, this sucks. And so we know that as we go through this process, that if we're going to come after the thought of there's a managed service, that there's a way to do this that is efficient, effective, and cost effective as well, that really comes to having that expertise coalesced into a managed service. And that's what our managed service does within Proven IT Finance.